in elementary we all have pizza days, hot dog days. It was like $1 and you get a hot dog or a pizza, pop and chips. Well, I guess like when I was younger, I didn't realize how poor we were until I saw everyone had it but me. I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every day and a juice box. Mm-hmm. And one of my friends back in grade 1, I was 6 years old, told me, "Hey, how come you don't have this?" And then at that point, I felt so embarrassed. And then I guess like this never really came to light until I'm 30 now, so until this year.
Yeah.
So I've been working with like a meditation coach, and she's really helped me draw out these subconscious thoughts or subconscious experiences that I hid, or like the ego hides from us to protect us.
Hey guys, it's Troy here, and today I have a special guest with me. He's my friend James, and recently I had the opportunity to reconnect with him after we first initially met at the University of Alberta. We got together and I had the chance to really, hear his story and hear some of the personal experiences that he has gone through and that he has been going through. And, it really aligned and resonated with me and sort of the more grand vision for Orbis that I have. And so we decided to collaborate, and I'm really excited about this opportunity because it's going to really allow us to produce a lot more video content about some of the sensitive topics that truly impact all of us. Now, to kick things off today, we'll be talking about the topic of comparing ourselves to others. How often do you find that you are comparing yourself to those around you? This might be in the form of, when you're at the gym and you're comparing your physique to other people. This might be in the form of, comparing your personal material belongings to those of others, right? Our cars, our houses, our financial situations, right? Or it could even be, our accomplishments, right? How often have you been in a scenario where you've looked at your superior and felt that, you wish that you could be in the same place they've been, right? And a lot of times these thoughts, these really intrusive thoughts, stem from our, childhood experiences, and they manifest themselves in, these sort of, behaviors in our adult life. And, when I first connected with James, he shared one of his personal experiences with me that I want to, get him to share today, right?
Yeah.
And please take it away, man.
Yeah. So I guess like what you said, a lot of the things that our childhood actually affects our behaviors and thoughts right now. And I think what you're saying is right. Like comparison is everyone does it.
Yeah.
So I guess the story I want to share that I shared before is about the pizza boy story. It's a super sensitive topic that I don't like sharing because it's affected my behaviors all the way till, I guess now, even now, I still let it affect me. I guess in elementary we all have pizza days, hot dog days. It was like $1 and you get a hot dog or a pizza, pop and chips. Well, I guess like when I was younger, I didn't realize how poor we were until I saw everyone had it but me. I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every day and a juice box. Mm-hmm. And one of my friends back in grade 1, I was 6 years old, told me, "Hey, how come you don't have this?" And then at that point, I felt so embarrassed. And then I guess like this never really came to light until I'm 30 now, so until this year.
Yeah.
So I've been working with like a meditation coach, and she's really helped me draw out these subconscious thoughts or subconscious experiences that I hid, or like the ego hides from us to protect us, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, introspectively I looked into it, and then I realized, shit, this is the reason why I'm fucking spending like an idiot sometimes, and like I want to show and flex, I guess, for lack of a better term, that I have money now, and that's really affected me. It's super personal, but I mean, who knows? Like everyone, I think, has like a personal story that they don't really know that's affected them, and sometimes our past is distorted too, right? I don't know if you've ever heard that before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know what really amazes me is, you know, that this insight that you've been able to really acquire came at a time where, you know, most people would have looked at you and, you know, saw you as someone that really had everything, right? I mean, you had just moved back from Toronto.
Yep.
After moving away for a job, and you know, you took over ownership of your own restaurant at the early age of 27, right? And you know, you had this business, you had several successful businesses, and you know, you had all of these different, you were able to accomplish all of these different milestones that most people spend all of their life chasing after. And yet, you know, you fell into this, you ended up falling into a battle with depression, right? You know, talk to us a little bit about, like, share with our audience, you know, because I think a lot of people can truly resonate with this, how we can have it all, yet feel like we don't have anything at all.
Yeah, well, I guess for me, I was chasing that high, the success that I thought I wanted, so kind of the money train, I call it. So you just follow constantly making money, and like you get to a certain point, you think you're happy, then you feel like you have to level up to the next point, and then again you go to the next point. So by the time I got to like 6 figures, I was like, okay, cool, I made it, got myself a fucking tattoo, and like I earned this tattoo. And then I guess after that, I decided, okay, I think I'm done with this corporate 9-to-5 job. I need to own my own business because I'm not happy. So then when I owned the business, there was that short honeymoon phase, almost like that shiny new car feeling.
Yeah.
It was honestly so short-lived. I think it was like 2 months where I felt like I was on top of the world. After 2 months, I literally fell so like low that I stopped going to work, stopped going to the restaurant to help out. You know, when we're depressed, when we're lazy, we just want to stay home and watch Netflix or YouTube mindlessly. So that's literally all I did for like a month straight. I'd get text messages and calls from my employees. Where are you? Where the fuck are you? We need you here. We need your help. Yeah, I'd slowly get out of bed and go there and meet them. But I mean, like, it's a typical thing that people do. Like, we chase this high that we think we want, and it's called the Arrival Fallacy. That's what psychologists call it. We think we'll be happy when we get to that point, but I mean, I thought it was, and then I just hit rock bottom at that point.
For sure.
So.
Yeah, no kidding. And that must have been such a, you know, challenging experience for you to go through, right? Especially because it almost misaligned with what you thought, you know, would have led you to, you know, a life of happiness and fulfillment, right? You had all these things, but you were still missing that piece, right? And I know that your childhood experience of, you know, your very traumatic childhood experience of, you know, seeing everyone around you, you know, being able to have the luxury of being able to afford, you know, pizza, right? And sometimes I find that it's some of these things that seem so simple and so benign, they often have the greatest impact on us in our adulthood, right?
It's like when you say trauma, I think about it, I'm like, what? That's not trauma. But I guess when you're young, it is trauma. You don't know how to cope with those feelings, and obviously I'm not going to talk to my parents about it. It's not something that I feel like I could talk to them. I was embarrassed. So, I mean, it is trauma when you're young, but when I look at it now, if that happened to me now, I would just go buy pizza. But I mean, maybe that's why I like pizza so much. I have pizza like twice a week because maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
Yeah, no kidding. I know that, you know, personally for me, one of the experiences in my childhood, and we'll get to, you know, adult experiences and, you know, how these things sort of manifested to those, but in my childhood experience, I had a what I considered a pretty poor experience in grade 6, right? And I remember in this one particular grade, I had a teacher, and she basically essentially went completely against the curriculum. She decided to cancel all of our gym classes. She decided to cancel all of our recesses, hold us inside forcefully, and instead we learned about social studies, right? We spent so much time learning about social studies. And I remember we would have a quiz every single week, right? And what would happen is that she not only gave us, a quiz every week, she also made our marks completely transparent. And so what I mean by that is that every time we would write the quiz, she would grade them, and she would pass around, the grade sheet, right? And you can see the names of every single person in the class, and you can see their mark, right? And you would be ranked from top performing to lowest performing. And I remember the sheet would come around, and I get the sheet, and I look at it, and I would see 96, 95, 92, 91. And then I would look all the way down the list to find my name. And I would see, 46, 45, 42, right? And this class ended up being the first D that I ever got, ever. And so as a result, as I went through, my junior high school, eventually getting into university, I always felt as if I wasn't smart enough. I always felt we are in this class of 400 people, right?
You were the person that got through somehow. I guess, yeah.
And it's it's, I know that we've talked about this and off the camera, but a phenomenon called the imposter syndrome, right? And we'll go through this in another video, but I think what happens is that I think one of the core reasons why we compare ourselves so much to others is because our society is completely built off of this, right? Yeah. We think about universities, right? We are graded on a curve system where we're ranked, lowest to highest, and we have to compare ourselves to other people. We're forced in that environment instead of being forced in an environment where it's a collaborative environment. We're forced to be in a competitive environment, right? Our workplace, corporate settings, they do the exact same thing, right? Like you are constantly in competition against other candidates for a certain position, for a certain title, right? For a certain salary, and we're constantly in competition. And so I feel as if, all of these things end up, leading us towards certain behaviors in our adult life where, we end up comparing our cars to other people's cars, our belongings, our houses, our relationships, all of these things. And we lose sight of what truly matters, the fact that we're even grateful, we even have the opportunity to have these things, right? Yeah. What has been your experience going through, university and going through the corporate world? I know that you eventually left that, right?
Yeah. I totally agree. Like school was obviously I didn't like school.
Yeah.
I was never good at it. I passed university, I got a degree, that's good, but that was more so for my parents to make them feel like, oh yeah, he finally got a degree, perfect. But other than that, it was really never for me. And I know what you're talking about with the comparison with the grades, transparency, but in post-secondary, you have a student ID, so no one knows your student ID. They don't have your first and last name on there, so it's not as embarrassing to be on the bottom, but still, you're looking at it. And I would pretend that I'm oh, that's me. It's like a 90 or whatever it is. But I was at the bottom, 60s, 50s. But I mean, in corporate world, it is a dog-eat-dog world, especially in Toronto. As much as people say that it's not political, it's super political, and I guess people try to create this culture around employees first and everything like that. But at the end of the day, you have to earn everything, and if you want to earn it, you have to be the top. If you're not the top, you're not going to get to the next spot, right?
Exactly.
And it's not a really great environment. So I think what I've heard was like a lot of people are getting rid of grades, or like, you know, Facebook, Google's getting rid of like the post-secondary requirements. And I think that's really good because some people school doesn't work for them, and they're able to do better. I have some friends that had to go to school and they're doing really well.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So, you know, being the person to have those child experiences that you did, how did that manifest itself in your adult life, you know, besides some of the things we've already talked about?
Well, most recently, you know, I bought a car, right?
Yeah.
So it's a nice car.
Yeah.
Funny story. So my friend and I met up after like a few weeks after his wedding. It was at this dive bar, old bar that his family owns. We're there. He tells me he bought a car for his mom or his wife, GLC 43. Super nice car. I love it. I love Mercedes. And he's like, "You're looking for a car, right?" No, I have some cars here. Pulls them up. I'm like, "That's so nice."
Yeah.
And then immediately after I heard he bought the car, I felt I didn't have a lot. I'm like, shit, I need a new car. I need to one-up this guy. I mean, not consciously, but I mean, I felt like, oh man, he has a new car. I need a new car now.
Right.
And what did I do? I went to the dealership Monday morning during Heritage Days, that civic holiday, and I went in without the intent to buy, but I just got suckered in and I bought it on impulse. It was such a bad decision, and now I look at it every time like, you idiot, you made a poor choice, but you know what? You did it, just live with it, forgive yourself for that, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I think that so many of us experience this where we hear about someone else's purchase and immediately we get like subconsciously, most of the times this happens subconsciously for us, we feel the need to almost one-up them. Yeah. We're like, damn, they bought a car, I gotta buy a nicer car now.
I gotta buy a faster car, I gotta buy a faster house. Yeah, that's typically how it works, and I think comparison's completely normal. I think you talked about this earlier. We all do it. I mean, it comes from our like history, right? Like we identify ourselves, we form ourselves, our identities based on the people we surround ourselves with, and that's from comparison. And it has a good part to it, and then the comparison part, there's also a negative side where we focus mostly on negative things, that what we don't have, and you said we should focus on what we do have already and how far we've come from like what we didn't have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that it's almost near impossible to completely eliminate these thoughts because they're so ingrained into our being that like it happens without us even noticing it, right? And so I can totally resonate with your story about the car because, you know, when I recently bought a house, immediately afterwards I was like, God, I need to buy a bigger house now. Right? Like, and it's always like you constantly feel like you never have enough. You know, it's fortunate enough to be able to become aware of that before, you know, making any poor decisions. But a lot of us, you know, a lot of us don't have that, right? A lot of us aren't aware of it yet because again, these are thoughts that are happening at the subconscious level. So, you know, let's talk a little bit about some of the strategies that you've been able to really identify and, you know, implement and use in your day-to-day to help manage these things.
I guess one of the big things was meditation, being more mindful. So I told you I'm working with a coach. Yeah. She always questions my thought. When I tell her, oh, I'm not good at that. Is that true? I have an addictive personality. Is that true? And I think having that coach really has helped me to identify, no, these aren't true. These are just thoughts, and your thoughts aren't you. Yeah. So that's number one. Number two is questioning yourself too. So I always ask myself, why do I need this? What purpose does this car serve me? Or what purpose does my thought serve me right now? And is this thought about me not being enough true? So from there, I'm able to, I guess, question that thought of I'm not enough, and then turn it around and say, hey, I am enough. I've come a long way. I didn't have a car like this before. I couldn't afford it. Now I can afford it. I didn't have a house before. Now I have a house. I could afford it. So I mean, when you look back, hindsight's 2020. You say these are all the accomplishments I have now. I should be content. And contentment is not a bad thing. I think a lot of people say when you're content or when you're in the comfort zone, your dreams die. I think a lot of people have seen that. I think that's total BS. Be content, right? Don't let people tell you not to be content. Yeah, so those are, I guess, some of the things I've done, and I know you've talked about some of the things you've done. So I guess, did you want to share that?
Yeah. But before I get into that, I wanted to just really reiterate this. You highlighted a really important part about bringing your subconscious thoughts into your conscious thoughts, and sometimes we aren't able to get through this process on our own. You talked about working with a coach, right? And sometimes you need that person to be there to prompt you and ask you those difficult questions, right? And I know that through your struggle, through your battle with mental health, you found a passion in supporting others to make sure that they don't go through the same journey, and you were able to start your company, The Hungry Mind, which is a coaching and mentorship platform, right? Talk to us a little bit about that.
What do you want to know about that?
I think more so, how coaching and mentorship has been able to really, being a coach and a mentor, how you've been really able to help people, get through some of these difficult challenges and these difficult thoughts.
Yeah, so I guess the biggest thing that most people struggle with is that barrier we have in our minds. It's not a true barrier, but to us it feels so real that we can't get past that. And having that coach and mentor, when I coach people, they always have these thoughts that tell me I'm not confident, I'm not this, I'm not that. And I say, is that true? What she does for me, but I frame it in a way okay, why do you think that though? What makes you think that? Is there a time and place where you've been that you were confident though? Tell me about that situation.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Right.
And then from there, I guess the big thing is, the thought is one thing, rewiring your thoughts, but the next part is what behaviors do you need to actually reinforce those thoughts now?
For sure.
I'm a gym guy, let's say.
Yeah.
You have to go to the gym now, right? So I build out those small habits, very small incremental changes in their life. So put your gym shoes on every day. You don't have to go to the gym yet. You've never gone to the gym in your entire life.
Yeah.
Put gym shoes on every day. That's all you do.
Right.
And then week 2 is maybe put your shorts on or what have you. And then from there, eventually you'll get to the gym. And when you're at the gym, what are you gonna do? You should work out. You're not gonna put in that effort and not actually start working out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, coaching is really important because you need that person to always question you, because those questions are hard to ask yourself. And eventually you can ask yourself that because your coach has taught you to do that. And you've rewired your mind to do it. And before it was so manual for me too. And now it's a little bit more automatic. It's just oh, you're dumb. Oh, no, you're not. Okay, why do you think you're dumb? And then it's just so quick now, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's almost like you have someone that is not only, someone that is keeping you accountable to yourself, right? But someone that is able to guide you through these small, low-risk steps, right? In order to accomplish the bigger goal, right, at the end of the day. And you're right, not all of us, because we have this sort of a psychological barrier that, prevents us from doing these things on our own. Sometimes we need that person to really just nudge us, right, and push us towards the right direction.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you were able to really take, your personal struggle and really manifest into something where you can truly help people and help them get through some of the struggles that you've been through, but also help prevent them from going through some of these challenges, right?
It's a hard industry though, for sure. I mean, especially with men, we don't like to be vulnerable and share our thoughts or feelings. It's just society's put that on us essentially. And I mean, it's been tough to get these guys to open up. I mean, for the 4th session, that's when they start talking to me. The first 3 sessions, it's almost we're going back and forth, where I'm not getting anywhere with them.
Yeah.
And then by the 4th session, they've opened up to me. Depends on the person, but average so far has been like 4 sessions. I just wish like we're able to be more vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's not something that I can change. It's something that has been conditioned in our minds for centuries. So it's not going to happen overnight. Eventually, maybe those changes will come to them.
Yeah, no doubt. It almost feels like we are scared of being seen in this vulnerable light. And it almost feels at times it really is somewhat connected to comparing ourselves to others, right? When we compare ourselves to others, we don't want to be seen in a poor light. We don't want to be seen, having a lower status than someone else, right?
Yeah.
And when we are vulnerable, society has conditioned us to think that is considered a low status. But in reality, when we're vulnerable, we're actually the most courageous.
Yeah, and vulnerability is like a really powerful thing. Like I wrote about it today, like how vulnerability is like such a powerful tool we can use as leaders, coaches, anyone can use it, right? And as long as I get why we don't want to share it, because it can be used against you too a lot of times. But I mean, I don't know, I hope people have good intent so they'll use it against me.
Yeah.
Like I've had people use it against me before. They're no longer friends obviously for that reason. But yeah, and like you did talk about something about accountability. That's another tool that, coaches do. So they keep you accountable. Having that social aspect for someone to force you to go, or like you're telling someone, hey, I'm going to go to the gym, make sure I go. And you talked about that too before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you find that with a coach, you will guide people towards questioning why they've made a certain decision as well too? For instance, like let's say that we've recently gone through an experience where we're on the cusp of making a impulsive purchase or have made one, right? Like, do you find that in your coaching experience, sometimes we don't ask ourselves why we've actually done something, and as a coach, you are asking those questions?
Yeah. Why did you end up buying that car? Because then I never bring it up. So a lot of coaches have this like typical structure they like to go through. They have an agenda or a plan. But usually how I like to coach people is like, what do you want to talk about today? Like, we talked about this. How did last week's goals go? Okay, you accomplished them. What are the next things you want to get out of the way this week?
For sure.
And I let them do the goals. And like, if something comes up that we didn't really talk about last week, let's say like a car for me, if I purchased a car and I felt like I had to bring it up, I felt like an idiot buying this car. And then that's when I would bring it up. I never judge them for what they tell me. I just tell them, why did you end up buying it? Like, what caused you to do that? So, and a lot of my clients, they get scammed into some MLMs and like a lot of things. And then like, I guess those herbal doctors, holistic doctors, there's a lot of them that sell their product online and they regret it after because it didn't work for them.
Yeah.
And I would ask them like, what made you do that? Obviously they're concerned about their health, but I mean, it's just a lot of still don't understand why they go into those things, but.
Yeah, usually if you dig a little bit deeper, there's usually some sort of other underlying reason, right?
Yeah.
And I think that just shows us that all of us have the answers within us. We just sometimes need a little bit of help to really just uncover it, right? And so, one of the things that I've been able to uncover through, not necessarily a coach, but just through my own self-development journey and in reading and listening to podcasts and what have you, is the notion of gratitude, right? And this ties in so closely with really comparing ourselves to others, and I don't think we realize it enough at times. So oftentimes when we compare ourselves to others, we feel as if we don't have enough, right? That's usually because we're not focusing on the things that we do have, right? We're not, like you said before, we're not looking at the hindsight vision. We're not looking at where we are today compared to where we are, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, right? We're looking at, most of us get suckered into looking at ourselves and comparing ourselves to the person next to us, right, instead, right? And so we always feel like we're constantly lacking. We always feel like we never have enough. And so one thing that I've, really really started to dive deep into recently is the idea of gratitude journaling. Now, this is something that has personally helped me quite a bit, and it's part of the reason why I was able to really navigate away from making that impulsive decision. But it's not to say that it will work for everyone, right? I think the key thing, really one of the key messages here is that, if you haven't tried it already and you are looking for something to try it out, right? And so gratitude journaling, for me, what that means is that every morning, just like how we brush our teeth in the morning, just like how we brush our teeth at night, I will take a few minutes just to write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. And because I find that as we amass more and more success, it becomes easier and easier to fall victim into this, to this comparison mind state, right? I have to force myself to do these things because if I don't have a forcing factor in play, I know that I won't just naturally think about these things, right? So I'll take a few minutes to write 3 things that I'm grateful for. And it could be anything. It could be family. It could be just waking up and being able to have a roof over your head. It could be, having food in the fridge. And these things we often take for granted, but a lot of people in the world, they don't have the opportunity to get these things, right? And so I know growing up, especially in an Asian culture, we're always taught like, hey, make sure you finish all of your food because someone else is suffering.
And we didn't have that growing up, right? We didn't have food growing up. So I'm like,
exactly.
Okay, sure, I'll finish my rice.
Yeah, exactly, right? Even though we didn't have abundance, we still had something, right? And some people don't have anything at all, right? Some people are just starving, and it is very unfortunate, and so in the morning I'll take a few minutes before I even start my day to just write 3 things that I'm grateful for. And because after we have finished our days, after we get off a long day at work, we naturally think about all of the things we haven't been able to accomplish, things that are on our to-do list for the next day. We gravitate towards these negative thoughts, right? And so for me, it's really important to also do it at nighttime. So I'll spend a few minutes before I go to bed, just reflecting on the day and finding 3 things that, I'm grateful for that had happened that day. And so just like brushing our teeth in the morning and at night prevents that, that plaque buildup, and we clean out all the like the rotting materials, right? To prevent our teeth from decaying, we really have to be conscious of doing the same thing with our minds, so that this way, we get rid of those negative thoughts. We remap our minds, which naturally gravitate towards these negative thoughts, towards, forming more positive ones, right? In the grand scheme of, with the grand purpose of just trying to, live a more happier and more fulfilling life at the end of the day.
Yeah, and like with journaling, like it's hard to get started with it, and I don't know how you did it. Did you just go all in with it, or did you slowly integrate into your life? Because I guess for me, it's not something that I could do every day. I have to slowly build that habit. Some people can go all in right away, but most people that I know, they don't go all in. They just slowly do it. So they'll do like once a month or once a week. Did you go all in?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm just like, that's my natural tendency. If I pick something up, I try to just go all in with it. Because I think that with depth, we're able to really get so much more out of it, right? And so I challenged myself, and I wrote down, I set a goal for myself, and I said, if I can do this for an entire week, I will reward myself in some way, right? And I was able to do it an entire week, and in the first week, I didn't see that. Like, I started noticing subtle differences, but nothing substantial, right? So I was like, you know what? I like this. I think it's not harming me anyway. So let's just keep doing it, right? And so what I do is every day, I will after I write my entry in at nighttime, I will actually write the next day's date on the next page,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So because I know that for me, I have this almost like a very OCD like tendency,
Yeah.
right? I feel like I don't wanna have to go and scribble that date out. Like, so I'm gonna make sure I get that done, right?
Yeah.
No matter what. So that has really worked for me, and I've been able to do it over the past several months, and I could say it's really started to change the way that I think about things. And I try to actually encourage, whenever I catch myself speak negatively about something, I will stop myself mid-sentence and I'll just say, you know what, I shouldn't be saying that, and I rephrase it in a more positive way, right? So yeah, it's definitely had some benefits outside of just preventing or minimizing, I should say, the amount of times I'll compare myself.
Yeah, I think that's like a lot to do with like positive psychology now. So
Yeah.
there's like so much research on positive psychology,
Mm-hmm.
because typically psychology is like, you're depressed, okay, let's get you to the normal level.
Yeah.
But I mean, positive psychology is okay, let's focus on just like the positive stuff you
For
have
sure.
in your life, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I get it, but I mean, it doesn't work for everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many solutions out there, so journaling might not work for you. So I'm just curious to know what everyone else has tried so far.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I think the biggest thing is that, like I said before, it's really just about giving other people, our listeners, just some different insights if they haven't uncovered them already, seeing what has worked for them, and then being able to learn about what has worked for other people, right? And so that really concludes, our conversation here today about comparing ourselves to others. We're so interested in learning about what you guys have to say, what sort of insights you guys have been able to uncover through your personal growth journey. So let us know, and if you do end up trying one of these strategies, also let us know how that has worked out for you. And let us know if there's any sort of topics that you guys want us to talk about in our next videos. But that's it.
Yeah.
Cool.